On July 23, 2007, I woke up to blinding pain. Someone was beating me with a baseball bat while I slept. Within hours, my wife Jennifer and our two daughters, 17-year-old Hayley and 11-year-old Michaela, would be dead. Murdered in our own home by two men who followed them from a grocery store. I was tied up in our basement, bleeding, helpless, while unspeakable things happened to my family upstairs. I'm the only one who survived. People ask me how I go on, how I wake up every morning knowing I couldn't save them. The truth is, some days I don't know. But I'm still here, and their story, our story, needs to be told. Not for sympathy, but so people understand what happened. So, other families might be spared this kind of horror. So, my girls and Jennifer are remembered as the vibrant, beautiful people they were, not just as victims of a brutal crime. This is the hardest story I'll ever tell. I grew up in Plainville, Connecticut, where my father ran Pet's General Store. Working there from a young age taught me about community and treating people with dignity. After Plainville High School, I went to Dartmouth, then the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine. I became an endocrinologist specializing in diabetes care and opened a practice back in Plainville in 1989. My work was my passion, but my family was my life. I met Jennifer Hawke in the early 80s. She was an oncology nurse, brilliant, compassionate, the kind of person who made everyone feel valued. We married in 1985. Jennifer had multiple sclerosis, but she never let it slow her down. She was strong in ways I'm still discovering. Our first daughter, Hayley Elizabeth, was born in 1989. She was determined, accomplished, driven. Varsity basketball captain, crew team, honor student. She'd just graduated from Cheshire High School and was heading to Dartmouth in the fall, my alma mater. I was so proud. Hayley had started Hayley's Hope to raise funds for MS research. At 17, she was already changing lives. Then came Michaela Rose in 1995. She was our sunshine. She loved cooking elaborate family dinners even though she was just 11. She played piano and flute, was in brownies, passionate about helping others. She planned to take over Hayley's Hope when her sister left for college and rename it Michaela's Miracle. We lived at 300 Sorghum Mill Drive in Cheshire, a quiet suburb where nothing bad ever happened. It was a simple 2-story home. We had Sunday dinners together. We went to church. We supported each other's dreams. Normal, safe, happy. That weekend in July 2007, we were just being a family. I'd fallen asleep Sunday night in our sunroom reading the paper. Jennifer and the girls were in their beds. Everything was peaceful, our whole lives ahead of us. I had no idea that evil was already watching us. I didn't know Joshua Komisarjevsky or Stephen Hayes. I'd never met them, never had any interaction with them. But they knew us, or at least they'd chosen us. Komisarjevsky was 26 years old, from a troubled background despite coming from money. He'd been adopted, diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder young, and had a history of both experiencing and perpetrating abuse. He'd been in and out of the system for years, mostly for burglaries. He had a sick fascination with young girls that everyone seemed to miss or ignore. Hayes was 44, with an even longer criminal record. His first burglary conviction was at 16. By 2007, he'd been arrested nearly 30 times. He spent most of his adult life in prison. The two met at a halfway house in 2006 and formed this toxic partnership. On Sunday evening, July 22, 2007, Jennifer and Michaela went to the local Stop and Shop for groceries. Michaela was planning to cook dinner for us that night. They were just shopping, just living their normal lives. Komisarjevsky saw them there. He later told police he thought we had a very nice house and a very nice car, and that it would be nice to be there someday, not have to worry about financial problems and stress. So he followed my wife and daughter home. He watched our house. He texted Hayes, "I'm chomping at the bit to get started. Need a margarita soon." They were planning something, and we had no idea. It's just after 3 a.m. on Monday, July 23, 2007. I'm asleep in the sunroom. I'd dozed off reading the paper, which I did sometimes. The house is quiet. Everyone's asleep in their beds, then pain, blinding, explosive pain in my head. Someone's hitting me, over and over, with something hard. I'm trying to wake up, trying to understand what's happening, but the blows keep coming. I realize it's a baseball bat, one I'd picked up as a giveaway from a rum brand at my father's old liquor store. They're using it to bash my skull. I'm on blood thinners, Coumadin, because of heart trouble I had a few years back, which means I'm bleeding out faster than most people would. I can feel the blood, warm, sticky, so much blood. Hands grab me. 2 men. I can't see their faces clearly. Everything's blurry from the head trauma. They're tying my hands behind my back. My ankles, too. Zip ties cutting into my skin. They throw something over my head. A quilt. Hayley's quilt, the one her elementary school teacher, Mrs. Watkinson, made for her when she graduated high school just weeks ago. "If he moves, shoot him," one of them says. I hear a click, a gun being cocked. They drag me down the stairs into the basement. They tie me to a support pole. The plastic zip ties are so tight I can barely feel my hands. The quilt is still over my head, soaking up my blood. I'm trying to stay conscious, trying to think. Where's Jennifer? Where are the girls? Are they okay? I can hear footsteps upstairs, voices, movement, but I can't make out what they're saying. Can't tell what's happening. I don't know. I can't know what they're doing to my family. I find out later, during the trials, and I wish I never had. They woke Jennifer, Hayley, and Michaela, put pillowcases over their heads, tied them to their beds, spent hours going through our house, looking for valuables. They didn't find enough. Our checking account had about $30,000 or $40,000, which they discovered. So they came up with a plan. They would force Jennifer to go to the bank in the morning and withdraw $15,000 in cash. If she cooperated, they said, no one would get hurt. But I didn't know any of this. I was in the basement, tied up, bleeding, helpless. Hours pass. I'm drifting in and out of consciousness from the head trauma and blood loss. I keep trying to move, to get free, but the zip ties won't budge. Then I start working the pole, standing up, sitting down, over and over, using my body weight. The zip ties start to loosen slightly, not much, but enough. Finally, one breaks. My hands are free. I rip the quilt off my head and untie my ankles. I can barely see. Blood is running into my eyes, my head is pounding, but I'm free. There's a bulkhead door in the basement that leads directly outside. I stumble toward it, push it open. The morning air hits my face. I hear a sound, a whooshing. I look back at the house. Flames. The house is on fire. My family is still inside. I'm still bound with some rope, bleeding heavily, barely able to walk. But I run. I make it to our neighbor's house. I'm pounding on the door, screaming. A neighbor I know, David Simchik, sees me. He doesn't recognize me at first. I'm so covered in blood, so beaten. But then he hears me yelling, "The girls are in the house! The girls are in the house!" He calls 911. Other neighbors come out. Someone else calls the police too. Within minutes, sirens, police cars, fire trucks. But it's too late. It's already too late. I'm on the ground. Paramedics are working on me. I've lost at least 7 pints of blood. My skull is fractured, but all I can think about is my family. Are they okay? I keep asking. Did they get them out? Nobody answers me. Police are everywhere. The house is fully engulfed now. Firefighters are trying to get inside, but the flames are too intense. They throw rocks at windows, spray water from a neighbor's hose. Finally, they break through. But when they get inside, they find no signs of life. I'm being loaded into an ambulance. I'm still asking about Jennifer, about Hayley, about Michaela, still hoping. At the hospital, reality starts to set in. A doctor comes to talk to me. His face tells me everything before he says a word. Jennifer was found on the floor near the stairs. She'd suffered a brutal assault, strangled. The medical examiner would later determine she died before the fire started. She fought. She tried to protect our girls, but they killed her. Hayley was in her room. She'd managed to untie herself. She'd gotten free of her restraints. She tried to escape, but the smoke was too thick, the flames too fast. She died from smoke inhalation trying to get out of that burning house. 17 years old, she fought until her very last breath. Michaela was still tied to her bed. She couldn't free herself. She was 11 years old. They'd violated her, taken photos of her, and then they left her there to burn. She died of smoke inhalation, alone and terrified. The details come out slowly, over the next days and weeks and months. Each one is a new wound. Each one tears open something inside me that never fully heals. The 2 men, Komisarjevsky and Hayes, they'd doused the house with gasoline from cans they'd bought earlier. They set it on fire to destroy evidence. Then they tried to run. But police had set up a perimeter after the bank teller Jennifer spoke to had called 911. The teller knew something was wrong when Jennifer came in asking for $15,000 and looking terrified. They caught Hayes and Komisarjevsky trying to flee. Both were arrested within hours. I was in the hospital for days. My family and friends rallied around me. My friend Ron Bucci handled everything I couldn't. Flying family members in, dealing with the press, arranging the funerals. White caskets, I told him. I just want white caskets. You figure out the rest. Because I couldn't. I couldn't think about flowers or eulogies or burial plots. My entire world had been incinerated in a matter of hours. Stephen Hayes was tried first, in 2010. I had to sit through every day of that trial. 5 months of hearing what they did to my family. 5 months of seeing crime scene photos, autopsy reports, text messages between the killers joking about what they were planning to do. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence. The DNA. The photos Komisarjevsky took of Michaela. The gasoline cans. The bank surveillance footage of Jennifer, terrified, withdrawing that money. Hayes was convicted on 16 of 17 charges. The jury recommended the death penalty. He was sentenced to death. Then came Komisarjevsky's trial in 2011. I had to do it all over again. Testify about that night, walk through every horrible detail. Face the man who violated my 11-year-old daughter. When the medical examiner started describing how Michaela died, the smoke inhalation, the burns, I walked out. I couldn't listen. About a dozen of my family members walked out with me. There are some things a father shouldn't have to hear about his child. Komisarjevsky was also convicted, also sentenced to death. I thought that was the end. I thought justice had been served. But in 2015, the Connecticut Supreme Court ruled that the death penalty was unconstitutional. Both sentences were commuted to life in prison without parole. I was devastated. These men had brutally murdered my family, and now they would live out their lives in prison, getting 3 meals a day, watching TV, breathing air that Jennifer, Hayley, and Michaela would never breathe again. People ask me how I feel about that. The truth is, I still struggle with it. I believe in the death penalty for cases like this. Not out of revenge, but out of justice. Some crimes are so heinous, so evil, that the only appropriate response is the ultimate punishment. But the law is the law, and I've had to find a way to live with that. How do you move forward when everything you loved has been taken from you? I wish I had a simple answer. I don't. The first year was the hardest. I moved back to Plainville, stayed with my parents. I couldn't go back to work. How could I see patients when I couldn't even take care of myself? I have PTSD, survivor's guilt. I struggle with sleep. I have bad days, bad hours, bad minutes, but I made a choice. I chose to honor my family by living, not just existing. In 2007, right after the murders, I founded the Petit Family Foundation. Its mission is to foster the education of young people, especially women in the sciences, just like Hayley wanted to do. To improve the lives of those affected by chronic illness, like Jennifer's MS, and to support victims of violence and help protect others. To date, the foundation has given away over $7.5 million to various causes. Every scholarship, every grant, every program is in memory of Jennifer, Hayley, and Michaela. It's how I keep them alive. In 2012, I met Christine Palouf at a foundation fundraising event. She was volunteering as a photographer. We talked. She was kind, understanding. She didn't treat me like a victim or a tragedy. She treated me like a person. We fell in love. On August 5th, 2012, we got married. I never thought I'd remarry. I never thought I could love again. But Christine showed me that it was possible. That honoring Jennifer's memory didn't mean closing my heart forever. In November 2013, our son, William Petit III, was born. Holding him for the first time, I can't describe it. It was joy mixed with grief, gratitude mixed with guilt. He would never know his sisters, never know Jennifer, but he's here, he's alive. He's proof that life goes on. In 2016, I decided to run for the Connecticut House of Representatives in the 22nd District. Some people thought it was about the death penalty, but it wasn't. It was about serving my community, about making sure my voice, and the voices of crime victims, were heard in policy decisions. I won. I served from 2017 to 2023, when I decided not to run for re-election. I'm proud of the work I did, especially around healthcare, victims' rights, and supporting first responders. Today, I live in Farmington with Christine and our son. I'm still actively involved with the Petit Family Foundation. I speak to groups about victims' rights, about the importance of the death penalty, about surviving unimaginable loss. If you've watched this far, thank you. I know this story is hard to hear. Trust me, it's harder to live. But here's what I need you to understand. My family was real. They weren't just headlines or crime statistics. Jennifer was a dedicated nurse who cared deeply about her patients. Hayley was a brilliant young woman with a bright future who wanted to help people with MS. Michaela was a joyful, creative child who loved to cook and wanted to continue her sister's charitable work. They deserved to live. They deserved to grow old, to achieve their dreams, to be here today. What happened to them was pure evil. There's no other word for it. Two career criminals decided that their desire for money was more important than the lives of 3 innocent people. They showed no mercy, no remorse, no humanity. But here's the other thing I need you to know. You can survive the unsurvivable. You can lose everything and still find reasons to keep going. It won't be the same. You won't be the same. but you can rebuild. I used to have bad weeks and bad days. Now, it's mostly bad hours and bad minutes. That's progress. That's healing, even if it doesn't feel like it. To other survivors of violence, other families who've lost loved ones to senseless crimes, I see you. I understand your pain. There is no closure. There's no moment when it suddenly stops hurting. But there can be peace. There can be purpose. There can be joy again, even if it's a different kind of joy. Find something to live for. For me, it's the foundation, my new family, and making sure Jennifer, Hayley, and Michaela are never forgotten. Find your reason, hold on to it, and to everyone else. Please, please be aware of your surroundings. Lock your doors, trust your instincts. Evil exists. It's rare, but it's real. Don't live in fear, but don't be naive either. Support crime victims. Support tougher sentences for violent criminals. Support organizations that help survivors rebuild their lives. Your voice matters. Your advocacy matters. My wife and daughters didn't just die, they were murdered by men who'd been given chance after chance by a system that failed them and ultimately failed my family. We have to do better. We have to protect the innocent, not just rehabilitate the guilty. I still think about that night. I always will. I think about the sounds I heard upstairs. I think about not being able to save them. I think about what their last moments must have been like. The fear, the pain, the knowledge that they were going to die. That guilt will never leave me. Even though rationally I know there was nothing I could do. I was beaten unconscious, tied up, bleeding out. The guilt remains. But I also think about the good times. I think about Hayley's laugh, Michaela's cooking, Jennifer's kindness. I think about family dinners and Christmas mornings and ordinary moments that I didn't know were precious until they were gone. That's what I choose to hold on to, not the horror, but the love. Jennifer Hawke-Petit, Hayley Elizabeth Petit, Michaela Rose Petit. They were loved. They are loved. They will always be loved. And as long as I'm breathing, as long as the Petit Family Foundation exists, as long as people remember their names, they live on. Thank you for listening to our story. Thank you for remembering them. Sleep is still tough. There is no closure, but there is purpose. There is hope. There is life after the worst thing you can imagine. I'm Dr. William Petit. I'm a survivor. I'm a husband and father again. I'm an advocate for victims' rights. I'm a man who lost everything and somehow found the strength to keep going. This is my story. This is my family's story, and I'll make sure it's never forgotten.